Alright guys, welcome back to another Opera Omnia video where we are back for another in-depth video. It's been a minute since I've done one actually. With anniversary and everything like that, most of the stuff that I've been doing lately has been showcases, so it's nice to come back and actually do an in-depth video on a character. But with Edgar is going to be getting his LD weapon and his C90 with a rework. And not only that, but Strago is also going to be getting his C90, but no rework is going to be attached to that. So we're going to be going over both of these two characters' changes and whatnot with some slides that I have put together for you guys, because I know you guys have been missing the slides. But you know, like I said in some of the past in-depth videos, I have been a bit busy, so that's why I haven't been able to put some slides together for you guys, and I know you guys really enjoy them, so I managed to get some time in to be able to put them together. So we're going to be going over what exactly they're going to be getting with their changes and whatnot, and let you guys know whether or not they are actually worth pulling for towards the end of the video with some gameplay of the Lufenia Plus fight of the Edgar's Intersecting Wills event. So as always, if you guys do enjoy the video, consider liking the video and subscribing for future Opera Omnia content. Let me know what you guys think about Edgar, either before or after you are done watching this video, down in the comment section below. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. Let's first start off with Edgar, Strago, and then whether or not you should be pulling for either of these two characters. So we'll first start off with Edgar's rework. So Edgar's rework to his skill 1 now becomes a 5-hit AoE ranged Brave plus an AoE HP attack 2 times. The plus version gains an additional HP dump, being a total of 3 with 1 less Brave hit, and it also ignores defense. His skill 2 becomes an 8-hit Melee Brave plus an HP attack 2 times that deals 80% splash HP damage. The plus version gains an additional HP dump, being a total of 3 with 2 less Brave hits in his attack, and it also ignores defense and deals 80% splash HP damage to other targets. His LD ability, Royal Shock, is a 5-hit AoE Magic Brave plus an AoE HP attack 4 times that deals split HP damage. He inflicts the debuff Royal Pressure to all targets for 6 turns. He also grants a new buff called Debilitator for 12 turns, and when dealing Brave damage, inflicts the weak debuff based on damage type, which we will get into that here in the next slide. Now it grants a new attack called Bioblaster that has 2 uses, and this replaces his HP plus command. The plus version of Royal Shock, as long as you have the Royal Pressure debuff active, gets another HP dump, being a total of 5, and it ignores defense. Now the buff Debilitator grants the following to Edgar: a 20% stolen max Brave overflow up, a 20% Brave damage up, and a 20% HP damage up. Now, whenever he is dealing Brave damage, he inflicts the weak debuff to the enemies for 4 turns. Now the weak debuff does the following. Basically, how this debuff works, and this only applies to Edgar, it doesn't apply to his teammates, because you need to have the Debilitator buff active to get access to this weak debuff and to get access to basically the resist downs that this debuff has. So basically, whenever Edgar uses a melee Brave, or when he deals melee Brave damage, it basically turns that weak debuff into melee resist down. Now whenever he deals ranged Brave damage, it turns into a range resist down, and the same goes whenever he deals magic Brave damage, it turns into a magic resist down. Now just because like he deals like melee Brave damage and then on the next turn you decide to use this LD ability that is a magic Brave damage, doesn't automatically mean that it replaces one over the other. Basically how it works, that once you use one of the different types of Brave damage, whether it be melee, ranged, or magic, they all combine together into one, so that whenever you use any of those types of Brave damage onto the enemy, he will basically be dealing weakness damage onto them. So that's pretty much how this debuff works, and again, it only applies to Edgar, seeing as how he is the only one that grants himself the Debilitator buff. Now, after you use his LD ability, you get access to the Bio Blaster attack, which is a 4-hit AoE Magic Brave plus an AoE HP attack 2 times that deals 4 HP damage. It increases his EX recast gauge by 20% and inflicts the Royal Pressure and Poison debuffs to all targets for 6 turns. Now, with the Royal Pressure debuff active, you'll get access to the Plus version of Bio Blaster, which gets an additional HP dump, but 1 less Brave hit, and it ignores defense. Also, you can stack the uses of Bio Blaster, which has a you have a max usage of 8 uses on it if you decide you want to just stack up his LD ability over and over and over, or if you choose to not use his Bio Blaster attack and then, you know, throughout the fight you use his LD ability, those do stack on top of each other, but then after you have no more uses of it, it does revert back to his HP plus command. Now, Edgar's EX extension changes his EX ability to a 4-hit melee brave plus an HP attack 4 times that now deals 80% splash HP damage. The buff that he grants Machinery now gives him a 20% HP damage up. The plus version gains an additional HP dump that also ignores defense. His C65 extension got extended by 2 turns, now being 6 turns, and whenever he attacks a debuff target, gains a 40% attack up. He also gains a 40% Brave damage cap up. His LD Call ability, when used, inflicts the Royal Pressure debuff and grants the following to the caller for 3 turns: a 20% Soul and Max Brave overflow up, a 20% Brave damage up, and a 20% HP damage up. And finally, we're ended off with Strago, since he is getting his C90. So Strago's EX extension turns his EX ability into a 5-hit AoE Magic Brave plus an AoE HP attack 4 times that now grants free ability use on his following turn, excluding his LD ability. His EX buff, Regained Hope, adds a 60% attack up and a 20% HP damage up. His dual cast now becomes a 4-hit Magic Brave plus an HP attack 2 times that increases Brave by 30% of the HP damage dealt after the first HP attack. And then with his C65 extension that got extended by 2 turns, now being 4 turns, and also adds a 45% attack up, 20% Stolen Max Brave overflow up, and a 20% Brave damage cap up. So is it worth pulling on this upcoming banner for Strago and or Edgar? Now we'll start off with Strago. Strago is a magical DPS unit. He does deal some very hefty magic damage, and with his C65, whenever you use any of his abilities with his C65 active, basically it makes said ability that you use go off twice, which is very, very nice. Aside from that, he does have ways to be able to re-break the enemy in certain abilities, and overall though, I mean, like, I feel like he is a very strong magical DPS character, and especially for those who decided to go ahead and build up the staff ultimate weapon, you can equip that onto Strago for additional HP damage. So overall though, if you do manage to pick up Strago's Strago's LD weapon, you're definitely not going to regret it, because he definitely dishes out some very hefty damage. Now with Edgar, in my opinion, his overall kit basically just focuses on himself, and that's pretty much it. Like, he doesn't provide anything to the party. I mean, he did get some decent upgrades with his skills, you know, dealing additional HP dumps, etc., right? I think his his skill 2 now deals splash damage, and I believe 1 or 2 other skills also deal splash damage as well. But with his LD ability now being able to have or now having access to a magical Brave damage attack, and with that weak debuff now that he inflicts, basically he makes it so that he now deals weakness damage onto the enemy pretty much the entire fight, as long as that weak debuff is active. But he pretty much does inflict that whenever you use either his LD ability, whenever you, as long as you have the debilitator buff active, he does inflict that weak debuff onto the enemies. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, as long as you use pretty much his skill 1, skill 2, and either his LD ability or his Bio Blaster, you pretty much meet all the requirements for that weak debuff. So every time that you use any type of attack or any type of Brave plus an HP attack with any of his skills, you're pretty much dealing weakness damage overall throughout the entire fight. So in my opinion, is it worth pulling for Edgar? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say, and the reason why I say that is because, like, even though he does deal some above, not really above average, but like a little bit above average damage for those who are like focusing on damage and whatnot, I kind of feel like with what he actually doesn't really bring anything to the party. And I'm one of those type of players that, you know, if I'm gonna have a character on the team, if he is a selfish DPS character, he better be dealing some very strong damage. But if he's not really bringing, if he is providing some party auras, and he is dealing some pretty good damage, not like top tier HP damage, but some pretty good damage, then he would be they would be a character that I would actually prefer over a character like Edgar, who is pretty much like focusing on himself, and that's pretty much it. And at the time that his LD weapon got released on JP, I honestly thought that they were really trying to sell his kit to meet the Lufenia Orb, because the Lufenia Orb for his fight, you have two ways to increase it, either by making it so that the target is weak to melee, ranged, and magic. All three together have to be, I guess, like weak, or the enemy has to be weak to all three of those together to increase the counter by 1, or you can make it so that, or the other way, excuse me, is to deal Brave damage that ignores defense. Now we do have a pretty good roster of characters that do ignore defense, like let's say Vivi, who recently got a C90, Owen, let's see, Zach, who else? Edgar himself, of course. Null has a defense ignore in his kit, and there are a few other characters that do have that as well. So, you know, if you're not going to be focusing on the whole making it so that the boss is weak to melee, range, and magic Brave damage, then you can take advantage of the other one, because the other one does increase the orb counter by 1. So that's why I kind of feel like they were trying to sell him for those who maybe didn't have any characters that did not ignore defense with their Brave attacks, but you know, that's just my opinion, of course. But other than that, though, again, I honestly feel like you can probably pass up on Edgar. I do believe his LD weapon does get featured in a future banner. I could be wrong on that. I don't think it does, but again, I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me on that. I'm gonna have to actually double check that now, because now I'm curious to see if it does actually come back at a later time. I feel like it does, but I'm not 100% sure. Oh, actually, yes, it does, with the dash intersecting wheels, but that's like way down the line. So you do have an opportunity to pull for his LD weapon later on if you decide you want to pass up on his banner. But again, in my opinion, though, I feel like he is a easy pass unless he is a favorite of yours. Then I completely understand. But in my opinion, I'm going to pass up on him. I'm probably going to throw a little bit of tickets just for the heck of it, but I'm not going to be chasing for his LD weapon. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below on Edgar and Strago, and if you're going to be pulling or not, let me know that as well. And of course, if you guys did enjoy the video, consider liking the video and subscribing for future Opera Omnia content. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video.